active transportation roadway restriping projects in Hunter Mill, Dranesville, and Providence districts. Before we begin, I would just like to review some guidelines so that everyone can participate and get the most out of this session. Please note that this meeting is being recorded and will be posted on YouTube and then linked to our project webpage. Microsoft Teams also offers a live captioning service, and you can find that by clicking the 3 dots at the top of your screen and choosing Turn on Live Captions. Once the presentation is complete, we will begin the question and answer portion of the presentation, during which participants can ask any questions aloud. The chat feature has been disabled for this meeting, so we will not be taking written questions. If you're on the phone, just hold your questions until the end, and we will have instructions on how to ask questions at the conclusion of the meeting. And we also encourage you to submit your comments on today's meeting using our online survey, online feedback form, or by phone call. And again, we'll have addresses for you at the end of the meeting to do all of that. So before we begin, I'd like to introduce a few attendees. It looks like Supervisor Alcorn is joining us on behalf of the Hunter Mill District. So thank you so much for joining us tonight, Supervisor Alcorn. And I'll turn to you for any opening remarks.
No remarks, just thanks for holding this meeting. Appreciate it. And thanks to the folks that have joined.
Thank you. We also have Prabha Rollins joining us on behalf of the Dranesville office, Supervisor Bierman's office. Anything to add, Prabha?
Nope. Thanks for the presentation. Looking forward to hearing comments from the public. Thank you.
Thank you. And I would also like to introduce our presenter from FCDOT tonight, Zach Desjardins, Transportation Planner 3 with Fairfax County Department of Transportation's Active Transportation Section. Zach will present slides on FCDOT's proposed restriping projects as part of the 2026 repaving program, and this will include any crosswalks or bike lanes FCDOT is proposing to add through VDOT's 2026 repaving program. So with that, I will turn it over to Zach.
Thank you, Hannah. Great seeing everyone tonight. So here we're talking about Hunter Mill, Dranesville, and Providence District. So the agenda tonight, we're going to talk about, just to give you a brief overview of the repaving and restriping program. We'll share some proposed modifications, in this case, bike lanes and crosswalks. We'll happy to answer any questions or take any feedback that you'd like to provide tonight. And we'll include instructions on how to provide feedback via our online survey. So just to introduce the program, this is a collaboration between the Virginia Department of Transportation, which owns all of Fairfax County streets, and Fairfax County Department of Transportation is a way to improve traffic safety for all users during the annual program. So we review the draft paving plan, provide inputs such as potential crosswalks and bike lanes typically. This year we're developing the striping and signage plans when we're coordinating with VDOT to add those in for their contractors to implement. Of course, we're reading the public engagement. That's why we're here tonight. In addition, VDOT will also reconstruct any substandard curb ramps on all streets that are repaved, not just the ones we're presenting tonight. And then once the pavement markings are down, we'll add the signage. So quite a collaboration. So just to some changes to the 2026 program. So the past few years, we've had these programs jointly with VDOT in the spring, and VDOT's published their annual list of all streets, not just streets proposed for bike lanes and crosswalks at that time. However, this year, VDOT asked us to hold them in the fall to provide more time to develop designs and get projects approved and whatnot. And they're quite substantial workload. So all the roadways tonight are on VDOT's draft list. However, the final list won't be published until the spring. And then some very important caveats to what we're sharing tonight. And so all we're sharing tonight are our concepts. So everything still needs to be approved by VDOT. And there again, as I mentioned, they're on VDOT's draft paving list. They're going to publish their final list in April, and potentially some of the streets that we are sharing tonight could drop off the list for a variety of reasons. utility work or other things, bids may come in too high. For streets not ended up on the paving list, we'll and for 2026, we'll defer that implementation of those bike lanes or those crosswalks until the street is repaved again. So many of the streets in Fairfax County were built a little bit wider than needed or have too many travel lanes. And that creates a lot of road safety issues such as speeding and attentive driving. Repaving provides an opportunity to kind of right size our streets and provide new bike lanes and turn lanes and improve safety for everyone at a very little cost. Traffic capacity at signals is typically maintained, and in some cases, we do maintain legal street parking. In other cases, we're asking your feedback to repurpose that for other things. And then also this is the repaving program is one of the reasons why we have such a substantial bike network in Fairfax County. So this is just an example of a street where we paved a number of years ago. So before it was Annandale Road was pretty wide, and then when we added bike lanes, it narrowed the street, and folks started driving more slowly, or at least closer to the speed limit. So there's kind of three types of bicycle facilities we can implement during the repaving program. We used to implement sharrows. We don't implement those very much anymore. Typically, we're implementing standard bike lanes or buffered bike lanes, which provide an extra piece of space between you and bicyclists and people driving. These type of bike lanes appeal to the strong and fearless user and the enthused and confident user. But one of the reasons that we propose and we try to do buffered bike lanes is that appeals to this group of interested but concerned, which are about half of all potential cyclists. Bicycle lanes don't just benefit people who bike, they benefit people who drive and people who walk as well. If you're walking along the sidewalk, bike lanes encourage drivers to drive closer to the center of the road and away from the edges, providing a nice buffer. Similarly, if you're pulling out of a driveway, having the traffic closer to the center road where it belongs makes it more visible and makes it easier for you to get in and out. It reduces the crossing distance when you're trying to cross the street at a crosswalk, and also discourages speeding, which helps to reduce noise through neighborhoods. So the first bike lane we're proposing is in Hunter Mill District on Fox Mill Road. We'd add them between Covered Wagon Lane and Marcy Creek Road. It would almost connect to our future Sunrise Valley Drive cycle track, which will lead to the Innovation Center Metro, and as well as other metro stations. It will provide some traffic calming because Fox Mill Road is very, very wide. And then because the street is already very wide, we're not proposing to remove any street parking, and we're not taking any feedback. So we're just narrowing the existing travel lanes, existing parking lanes to the standard widths to fit bike lanes in. And of course, reducing speeding is a very important concern because we have Upper McNair Elementary School right here in the middle of the street. So this is a Fox Mill Road existing conditions. As you can see, it's already quite wide. Now we're going to jump over here to Providence District to talk about Arrowhead Drive and Rosehaven Street. So we're proposing to add buffered bike lanes along these two streets, stopping short of the signalized intersections as a temporary improvement. You may have heard that some of the properties within this space, you can see some of them already torn down, are proposed to someday become housing or other uses. And so the bike lanes would be an interim solution until a more permanent solution comes when those projects are approved and completed. We're proposing to remove some street parking in order to provide bike lanes here. We also have the I-66 parallel trail, which is down here, that provides connections to the Vienna Metro and Dunloring Metro and the broader trail network. So there's three survey options for you to rank. One is make no changes. 2 is to add buffered bike lanes by removing all street parking. And then 3 is just to retain the street parking in front of the townhomes down here at the Elms at Oakton, which we did notice that was used a little bit more than some of the other blocks. One of the things we did, one of the challenges is a lot of our street parking isn't used for its intended purpose. And so some parts along Arrowhead Drive, we have some RVs, we have some boats, we have some construction equipment. And so being able to add bike lanes kind of removes some of that nuisance parking and kind of and whatnot. So again, this is what the existing conditions look like. So there's 2 very wide travel lanes and no marked parking lanes. And again, this is the existing conditions, 2 travel lanes and 2 parking lanes, and we propose to potentially add two buffered bike lanes. Going over to the Merrifield neighborhood of Providence District, Hilltop Road. So several years ago, we did add bike lanes on Hilltop Road. What we're proposing to do now is to remove some underutilized street parking to be able to add a buffer. We want to add a buffer because we've got some projects in mind. One of them's over here on Prosperity Avenue, is to upgrade that and add protection for people biking and discourage people from stopping in bike lanes illegally. So by removing some of the street parking or all of the street parking, depending on what options ultimately selected, we kind of paved the way, literally and figuratively, to add that kind of barrier along Hilltop Road. And so there's a couple options you have here. There's no changes to Hilltop Road. We would convert all street parking to bike lanes, and then we thought folks in the residential areas might potentially want to retain some of it while we kind of get rid of it in some of these commercial areas where a lot of the folks already have street parking. So these are the segments. This is over in the residential areas over near Hilltop, Willowmere Drive and Grovemore Lane. And then this is some of the commercial segments, which are kind of to the east of Prosperity Ave near Door Avenue. And so in this particular case, since we're proposing to remove a significant amount of street parking, we did do a short low parking study. And we found that in the residential areas, it really wasn't used all that often. In some sub-bays, we didn't find any occupancy at all. And then a little bit more as you get closer down the hill, although I do suspect some of those vehicles might be long-term visitors instead of short-term residents. And then if you go down closer to the commercial areas, it was pretty significantly underused as well. And so here's just a couple pictures that I took out on Friday. You can see some of our street parkers are commercial vehicles and whatnot. And then we have a couple folks at Crop Metcalf who are not using their own parking lot. They're using the county street instead. And then lastly, but certainly not least, in Dranesville, we have one segment of one bike lane that we propose to add just in the westbound direction. We have to end it just before the intersection because this is newly signalized and we aren't able to make any changes to that during the repaving program. It would provide a nice little connection that extends the existing Carterway bike lane and connect it. And then we aren't able to put anything on the eastbound direction because when the traffic signal was added here recently, a slip lane was added, and unfortunately that kind of precluded adding a bike lane here and whatnot. So there's a survey option for this. You can make no changes, or you can just remove this one travel lane here to add a westbound bike lane. Hopefully some of these adjacent properties get redeveloped. We'd have a better opportunity to extend the bike lane in either direction. In addition to looking for new bike lanes, we also look for places to add new crosswalks. VDOT has pretty strict standards on how to, or should I say increasingly strict standards on where crosswalks can go. So for example, we have to have a current ADA ramp. So that's, if you've ever seen the little truncated domes, little red bumps, that's the only place we can put a crosswalk. And so 2 ramps on either side or to add one of those. And so this year, the only one that we could find within all 3 districts we have here tonight is over here in Providence District, over on Cedar Lane. It's near the 66 parallel trail. There's a little spur segment of the trail right here. And the nearest crosswalk to this one is about 1/4 mile to almost to 4/10 of a mile away. So we thought adding this little crosswalk would be pretty useful. We're not adding any, we're not taking feedback on this one because we're not repurposing street parking since it's not allowed on this segment of Cedar Lane. If you have any paving related concerns, drainage issues, missing site, signage, signal repair, walkway repair, site distance issues due to vegetation, please submit those to VDOT as they are the owners of our streets. We have our project web page right down here. Then we have the online feedback forms. So we have one for Providence District and we have one for Dranesville District. And as I mentioned before, we're not taking any feedback for Hunter Mill because we're not taking anything, we're not proposing to take anything away. We're just adding bike lanes to the existing street and not touching the travel, not removing any travel lanes either. If you have any questions, feel free to email us at dotbicycleprograms@fairfaxcounty.gov. And Hannah, do you want me to go through the Q&A, or do you want to cover that? Oop, I can't hear you.
Sorry. Yeah, I can run through it quickly.
Okay,
Thanks,
thank you.
Zach. So we will now take questions and comments from attendees on this presentation. And so you can ask your question verbally either by raising your hand, which is located at the top of your screen next to the three dots. I will enable your microphone and then call on you to ask your question. Please unmute yourself when I call your name and just ask your question or provide your comment, and then mute yourself and please lower your hand once you've asked your question. I don't think we have anyone on the phone, but just in case, just press *5 to raise your hand when I call on you, and then press *6 to unmute. And then after you're finished, just press *6 again to mute yourself. And again, Zach already mentioned, but we will not be taking questions through the chat tonight. And we will start with Bruce. You have microphone access. Yep.
I have a comment and a question. The comment is, it would be nice if there were a bike facility on Frying Pan. I don't ride on Frying Pan because the traffic's really fast. There's no room for cyclists. And so there is a way to cut through the neighborhoods just north of Frying Pan. But I'm glad to see the Fox Mills section will be bike lane. The question is, do you have a timeline on that Sunrise Valley Drive cycle track? It's desperately needed because both Frying Pan to the south and Sunrise Valley to the north are very bike unfriendly. So there's a lot of people living there, and it'd be nice to have some bike access there.
Thank you.
Thanks for the comment, Bruce.
Yeah, go ahead.
So for Frying Pan, we did look at that. Unfortunately, it's just too complicated to do during repaving and whatnot. And then for Sunrise Valley Drive, if you go to our Transportation Design Division website, so it's fairfaxcounty.gov/transportation/TDD, and you click on Hunter Mill District, there should be, make sure, there should be a note in there about the Sunrise Valley Drive cycle track. Yeah, it's the very first one. And so we've got a contractor on we're working through the contracting options on that. There's progress being made, but yes, I do agree it's been a bit slow at moving ahead, unfortunately. So thank you for your question.
Zach, let me jump in. I think we're
Sure.
also waiting on a federal grant, aren't we, for that? Or did that come through? I know we applied.
Possible for some other segments, I would say yes. At least for the one segment on the TDD webpage, I think they've got some funding to get it started. But I'm certain we do need more federal funds or funds in general to complete the rest, given the cost.
Yeah, well, thanks, Zach. I also noticed that just west of Reston Parkway, there is some activity. It looks like some stakes are there, and that's desperately needed improvement. There's just a goat trail between Sunrise Valley and all that new development that's to the east. All right, thanks.
Yeah, if you look on that same webpage I gave you, that is also listed as a Sunrise Valley Drive project, and they're building a walkway there. It is slow going, but we're making some progress. So thank you for the questions and feedback.
Thank you. Next we'll go to Chris, and you should be able to unmute yourself now.
Yep, thanks. Thanks for the opportunity to listen in tonight. I've got a few questions, but I'll just do them one at a time so that I can let other people go. You start off by saying that there was a draft list of streets that VDOT had provided for you to review. I assume what you presented were only those streets where you found opportunities for improvement. Do you have the full list of streets that they provided to you available that we could take a look at?
If you're requesting the full list, yes, I can provide that to you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Next, we can go to EJ. You should be able to unmute yourself now.
Well, thanks very much for taking the time in your evenings to educate us on this. I know that you guys have a day job as well, so I very much appreciate it. I live in the Merrifield area, so I'm going to focus on that one, if you don't mind. But two somewhat related questions. Well, two separate questions. Let me just ask them as separate ones. One is I noticed that you are thinking about putting in that crosswalk at the top of Hilltop. And I was wondering what the distinction is between putting in a regular striped crosswalk and a more traffic calming raised crosswalk like you have farther up on Cedar Lane that was put in roughly about a year ago, and whether something like that could be considered within the context of the paving program or not. And I'll ask the other one quickly just to add. I also noticed, of course, that some of these bike lanes are going to go past this Merrifield area that's going to also be redeveloped. The one between adjacent to Hilltop and Prosperity. And I'm wondering how that fits into the plans for redeveloping that area as well. Or is that just too far in the future? Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Go ahead, Anna. Sorry.
I was just going to answer the first part of the question. So unfortunately, the raised crosswalks are outside of the scope of the repaving program. So all that we're able to do through this program is just striping on the pavement.
Yeah,
Okay,
this
thank
could be
you.
the high visibility piano keys that you see in other, that look like piano keys. The other crosswalk, it sounds like the raised one, those do get implemented by our colleagues over in traffic calming as part of the residential traffic calming program. So potentially this one could eventually be upgraded to that, should that meet that program's requirements. And thank you for the question about Prosperity Avenue. That's certainly been on our minds. And that development. So I'm just going to circle back here to a larger map. So there is a proposal to replace a lot of these old warehouses with townhouses with multifamily buildings. The last submission I saw, they're actually not proposing any changes between the curbs, which is great for the county's perspective because we have a grant and we also have funding to implement protected bike lanes with concrete barriers in Prosperity Avenue and whatnot. So whenever that project comes in, it would be very, very compatible with what we're trying to do. If and when that project gets approved and whatever timeline it's being built on, and whatnot. And similarly, I believe that project touches a little segment of Hilltop, and I don't believe they're proposing changes other than to kind of retain what we have there already. So thank you for your question.
Thank you. And then next we will go to Shalini. And I've just allowed your microphone, so you should be able to unmute yourself.
Yep. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Thank you so much for your presentation and for giving us the important information. My question, I live in the Providence district, and my question was about we already have existing crosswalks, the black and white, the zebra crossing, opposite Boat Street Park, the Blake Lane Park area. I'm talking about Oakton, opposite Oakton Elementary School. I was wondering, is it in your scope if we got a better visibility for pedestrians crossing there? Just the crosswalks don't provide enough of a safe zone for pedestrians to cross, given the speeding vehicles there, and we have an exit to 66 and the HOT lanes. Everything is really close by to those crosswalks that I was talking about. Is there a way you could have like a flashing, light crosswalk that they have in college campuses and some places in Vienna and Fairfax City that you could consider putting it there, perhaps?
Yes, so those are called rectangular rapid flashing beacons, and those are funded through a separate program. We have $100 million that for active transportation projects like that was allocated by the Board of Supervisors a few years ago. And so we basically just have a list of smaller projects like that that can be funded using that money there. Unfortunately, it's a very long list and there is a very long backlog, but if you give me the exact name of the intersection, I can make sure it's recorded on that list so that next time, the next funding opportunity that comes up, we can add that to our list
So
for
should I
consideration.
I'm sorry. Should I use the section that said questions and there was an email and there was a link? Is that where I mentioned that?
Either
You
one.
can
You're
email it
welcome to
to
tell
us.
us now. Oh, yeah, or afterwards. It's fine.
Okay, I think I just
Yeah.
made a note of that and I'm just figuring I could use that email.
Yes,
Yep.
yeah, that's fine. Those will go to us, so I can just add it to the list.
Okay.
I think it's just DOT bicycle programs at fairfaxcounty.gov.
Oh,
Yep,
can you?
But unfortunately, it's
like
outside of the
fine.
scope of this program.
Okay, but could you please repeat that email for me? I'm sorry.
Yes. Zach, do you want to flip to the last slide?
Sure.
Because I have it
Yeah,
up
are
there.
you seeing the last slide or no?
Oh,
Yeah,
for me, I'm just seeing the hilltop slide.
Okay. Well, it should have flipped back to that slide. It's DOT bicycle programs at fairfaxcounty.gov.
Bicycle program at fairfaxcounty.gov. Sounds good. Thank you so much.
Yeah, and hopefully it'll appear on the screen. Thank you.
Thank you. And then we can go back to Chris if you had another question or comment.
Yeah, thanks. Actually, Shalini was asking about a couple of intersections kind of in my backyard. So just for her benefit, I'll let her know that at the Bushman Blake Lane intersection, FCDOT is going to be installing one of those rapid rectangular flash and beacon crosswalks, and that's immediately adjacent to Blake Lane Park. So I don't think that's the Hibbard crosswalk you were asking about, but it's very close. It's my understanding that should happen within, I don't know, a half a year or less. It's very close. And the Oakton Elementary School parking crosswalk that she was talking about, which is crazy dangerous, is actually going to have a new signalized crossing as part of the AT&T site redevelopment project. That's probably more of like a 3, 4, or 5 year timeline. But if it's probably hard for me to connect with her, but there are changes on the horizon that are close to what she was asking for. But anyway, my question, it's a good segue, my own segue to the Arrowhead Drive, Rosehaven Street bike lanes. I don't know if it's possible to, looks like the screens may be frozen, but I'm serving on Supervisor Palchik's advisory group about this AT&T site development, which is immediately across the street from the Arrowhead Drive, Rosehaven Street proposed bike lanes, and I'm very supportive of the bike lanes there. But I'm just curious to what extent you guys have looked at the site plans for the AT&T site, most importantly, the off-site improvements, which include a pretty major redesign of Rose Forest Drive, as well as the site development plans for the smaller parcels on the west side of Chainbridge Road. And my concern not is that you would be constructing bike lanes, but that with so many sort of overlapping land use development projects going on, that there's some sort of unified vision. For example, one of the proposals in the AT&T site development is for Arrowhead Drive to dead end in a cul-de-sac before it reaches Rose Forest. And so, a lot of this hasn't been through the zoning process and not approved, but there's a lot of moving parts there. I'm just curious how that might play into the project, and I'm also wondering if it actually makes sense for VDOT to repave Arrowhead Drive if in 2 or 3 years' time there's going to be a massive redevelopment of the site, including changes to the configuration of that street. I'm kind of just asking if the left hand and the right hand are sort of talking to each other in that for that particular project.
Yeah, so
yeah. Yeah, I'll take this one, Hannah. So I can only speak to the county side of who's coordinating, but the county staff are the site analysis staff and colleagues and another group are very much coordinating on both sites as to how they impact each other and making sure they're compatible with our current plans. Regarding whether VDOT, in terms of VDOT has shared with us in the past that they can't rely on a developer to repave a road. And so in this case, they for now on the draft list chosen to potentially repave it. It may drop off the list in the spring if the development looks more imminent or for any other reasons. But typically they don't really coordinate with developers on repaving projects.
Okay.
For whatever reason. Sorry, is there anything you wanted to add, Hannah?
no, I was just gonna also add that there's definitely a chance it could fall off the list, given the redevelopment timelines.
Okay. Thank you. That's helpful. We have a meeting this week, and it's helpful to go into the advisory group knowing about what are some of the projects that might happen in the short term. So thanks. I've got one more question, but I'll put my hand down and let others go.
We can go back to Bruce again. You should be able to unmute yourself now.
Yes, I can. Thank you. Apparently we can't get that map back up, but in looking at my browser at the Rosehaven bike lane and the connection to the I-66 trail. So the I-66 trail crosses Chain Bridge and then it heads south, kind of parallel to Rosehaven. Is there a good connection up to where the bike lanes will be? If there is, that's going to be a really nice way to avoid maybe Germantown Road for folks that are trying to access the 66 trail.
Yes, I don't think you can see it in the Google Maps imagery, but there is a connection directly between the trail and Rosehaven Street.
Yeah, there's one at the southern end, so where Rosehaven and Arrowhead kind of curve, and there's one kind of mid-block between Rose Forest and in the where Arrowhead and Rosehaven meet down at the bottom. Hannah, you're still unable to see my screen?
Oh, I can see it now. It just popped up for me.
Okay. Oh.
I can't see it.
It's been up there for a couple of minutes. Goodness.
Oh, there it is.
I'm sorry. Yeah. So,
Okay.
so the trail connection is right here where my mouse, and then there's another one down here. So that's one of the reasons why we're proposing it on this street is because we have the trail segment here. So.
Okay, good. That sounds good. Thank you.
Thank you.
And did you have another question or comment, Shalini?
I didn't have another question. I was trying to lower my hand and I need to turn it again. I'm sorry.
No worries.
Oh, no worries. I think I can actually lower it for you.
And I also wanted to, I had the same question Bruce just asked, so that was perfect. And thank you, Chris. I noted that. Appreciate that.
You're welcome. I did have another question while you're on this slide. It's hard to see, but I believe there's a Fairfax Connector bus stop on Rosehaven as well. Possibly it's a metro stop. It's across from the apartment complex there, kind of on the upper right curve of. Anyway, I'm just wondering if you're planning to. I think it's just a standard crosswalk at the moment that the residents of that apartment complex would use to get to that. I think it's actually a covered bus stop or a shelter. Are you proposing to put in a high-vis crosswalk for that bus stop location? Or can you take a look at that?
If there's an existing crosswalk, yes. I'm not sure if there's an existing one. It might have faded. But each of the bus stops will have the bike lanes will dash across them to accommodate the bus.
So I'm sorry. So Zach, you said if there is an existing crosswalk, it would be upgraded to a high-vis crosswalk.
So if it's a mid-block existing crosswalk, not at a stop sign and not at a traffic light, or excuse me, not at a stop sign, it would become high visibility if it's a mid-block without any like traffic control. At signalized intersections, also those also become high visibility crosswalks if they aren't already.
Okay.
Yeah,
I think that's also, I'm sorry, I was gonna say that's also a crosswalk, I think, that has an access point to the 66 parallel trail. So users, people in that apartment complex could get onto the 66 trail through that crosswalk as well. So I think that's an important crossing.
yes, yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah, unfortunately, I when we looked at the street, I don't think there were any existing ADA ramps that we would have been able to add a crosswalk to. Otherwise, we would have provided or would have proposed one. But if there's or the existing crosswalk there, it will get upgraded. But I can't. I'm not sure. I didn't check to see if there was one.
There's
Yeah,
an
I'm-
existing one closer to Rose Forest that's just really, really faded, and I believe it's
well, there we go.
mid-block, so VDOT should be upgrading that to high vis. They're in most cases they've been automatically upgrading any mid-block crosswalks to high visibility.
Okay. Yeah, you're right, Hannah. There's one further north on the north side of Rose Forest Drive, but the one I'm talking about is south. It's again, it's at that lower right-hand corner of that sort of rectangular apartment complex. But-
Okay.
so I think there's two.
Yeah, so that one would not have had the upgraded curb ramps, or else we would have requested it. There,
So it has curb ramps, but not the right type.
so yeah, so VDOT now is requiring us to, or for the repaving program, they're only able to add crosswalks where the ramps meet the current ADA standards. So usually what that looks like are the ramps that have the plastic truncated domes on them. So if it just has like the rock, that aggregate material, they won't put them
Okay.
there through repaving. They would have to
Okay.
wait until the ramp was upgraded in order to add the crosswalk.
Okay.
Yeah, and also if you're crossing that little street there, that also might be, it might also not be in the actual paving area, as well. So sometimes I don't remember if the paving extent goes further down Rosehaven, but if it didn't, we wouldn't be able to add one outside of the paving area anyway. Just because you have to put you have to put crosswalks down on the pavement that's within the contract. So.
Okay, thanks.
And then Bruce, did you have anything else to add?
I did have one last quick comment. I'll just make a pitch for additional funding for maintenance. We've got a lot of bike lanes, we've got a lot of trails. They're both right now in pretty bad shape. Bike lanes are filled with acorns. And we try to get VDOT to sweep, and they don't. They maybe once a year or twice a year. And I know there's not enough funding for maintenance of our trails. So I know it's not part of this effort. Just wanted to make my perennial pitch for better funding for maintenance. So thanks.
Thank you.
Yeah, and do continue to submit those maintenance requests to VDOT. We had a lot of issues with maintenance on the 66 trail this summer, and I know myself and a number of residents had submitted those requests, and eventually it did get addressed.
Yeah, our group
has thank you
submitting lots of requests to them.
Yeah, I've heard.
When they're submitted, they're good, but those are one-offs, and it'd be nice to have, a trail coordinator in VDOT who inventories our trails and has a regular, schedule for maintenance. But that's a long-term dream, I guess.
Yeah, that's a great idea. Thank you.
Chris, did you have anything else?
Yeah, one more for you guys. I'll let you go. So this actually, the slide you have up is a good example for the question. There were a couple places where I guess the online survey lets you choose options or you're looking for feedback. I guess real quick, in each of these cases, is FCDOT not proposing what they would like to do and asking for feedback? You're instead just laying out options for feedback? I mean, are you making a recommendation in each of these cases, what you would propose to do? What are you proposing to do?
Yes, so those will be multiple choice, but then there's like a comment block at the bottom of the survey where you can just add any other comments on any of the proposals.
So in the case of Arrowhead and Rosehaven, Hannah, what I'm saying is FCDOT saying we're proposing option 1, but we're asking for feedback on, other options. There's 3 options. We're proposing option 1. We want your feedback.
Oh, no. The options aren't ranked in any preference from staff. So so ultimately we'll take all of your feedback. We'll share if we have parking surveys for certain streets, we'll share those with our supervisors, and the supervisors will then determine how to proceed. All we do is we identify feasible options or options we think that would generate public support, and then we get that support, and then the supervisor can decide how they handle that decision. There isn't like a staff recommendation like some of the other jurisdictions use.
Okay. All right. Well, I would love to see you guys be empowered to do that. If the goal here is pedestrian and cyclist safety, I think there's some obvious choices here. And it's always frustrating to me that, private property storage on our public streets seems to be the lightning rod that, steers these things. So anyway, I'll certainly weigh in with my opinions, but I'd love to see you guys actually put forward your recommendations for what you think the proper and safe, configurations of the roadways are. But I understand what you're asking for, so thank you.
Yeah, I will just add, even a few years ago, we didn't actually propose removing any parking for bike lanes. It was pretty uncommon. In the last few years, we've provided data and collected feedback on that, and some of our supervisors have made that choice as well. So I think the supervisor still on here, he's done that as well for some streets, and some of the other supervisors have. So
I realize he hears it from a lot of people as well, but I live on a street that went through this process 4 or 5 years ago on Bushman Drive, and the choice made was to split the difference, right? And so we've retained, we've got RVs and boats and trailers and box trucks and stuff, and we have a bike lane on one side of the road, and we've got a share on the other side of the road, and it switches from side to side, and kids and novice cyclists, they use the bike lane the wrong way. They ride into traffic because it's the only straight bike. It's a mess. And so I think either you do it right or you don't do it. But obviously my preference is safe, sustainable transportation options for people over private parking, free private property storage. So anyway, I'm glad things are shifting slowly, even if it's maybe slower than I would like. But thanks. I won't keep you guys any longer. I appreciate you answering all my questions tonight.
Of course, yeah, thank you. All right,
thank you, everyone. That's why we're here. So
one last call for any questions or comments before we wrap up. Not seeing anything, so this concludes our meeting on the 2026 roadway restriping program. A recording of the meeting will be available on the project webpage in the next day or so, likely around midday tomorrow. Thank you for joining us tonight, and we really appreciate your time and participation.
Yep, thank you, everyone. We look forward to seeing your feedback.
Bye-bye.
Good night.
Yeah. Thanks, Hannah and Zach.
You bet, Bruce. Have a good one. Bye.
Good night.
Right.